I'll be honest with you, I was looking at my outline this past week, and I was working on it and typing it out, working on it, and I was like, you know what, this whole thing is just vanity. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to preach it anyway, and let me vexation of spirit. So that's how it always fits together right there when you're going through Ecclesiastes. But last week we kind of looked at it, and I mean, you know, the point I was drawing out was obviously, as the book progresses, we see purpose, we see the reason why the book is there, and we see truth to it, we see volume. But in the first little bit, you're like reading it along. When you first start picking it up, you're like, wow, really, this guy had it rough. Then as you read some more, you find out some more things towards it, and that's kind of our reading progression. Obviously, you read the Bible through. If you read the Bible through, you read through Ecclesiastes, and you know it gets better, and it shows more clarity as it goes through. But we're going to go over here to Ecclesiastes chapter 2, and I'm going to do my best to speak in English. That might work for everybody here. I'm all tongue-tied, so we'll try it anyway. Verse number 1. I said in mine heart, go to now, I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore, enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought in mine heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life. I made me great works. I builded me houses. I planted me vineyards. I planted me gardens and orchards. I planted fruit trees, in them of all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water, to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidens, and had servants born in my house. Also had great possessions and of great and small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I gathered me also silver and gold, and the peculiar treasure of kings and of the provinces. I gat me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men, as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. I was great and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me, and whatsoever mine eyes desired I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion of all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. And I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do that cometh after the king? Even that which hath been already done. Then I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light excelleth darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walketh in darkness. And I myself perceived also that one event happeneth to them all. Then said I in my heart, as happeneth to the fool, so it happeneth even to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, this also is vanity. Verse 16. There is no more remembrance of the wise more than the fool forever, seeing that which now is in the days to come shall all be forgotten. And how dieth the wise man? As a fool. Therefore I have hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me. For all is vanity and vexation of spirit. Yea, I have hated my labor which I have taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. If I'm gonna be working for something that's gonna be left for someone else, let them do it. If everything I work for is gonna be given to somebody else when I die, let them work for it. What's the point? And then he says in verse number 19, and who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labors when I have labored. And wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun, this is also vanity. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair of all the labor which I took under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is in wisdom and in knowledge and in equity, yet to a man that hath not labored therein shall he leave it for his portion. This also is vanity and a great evil. For what hath man of all his labor and all the vexation of his heart, wherein he hath labored under the sun? For all his days are sorrow, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not rest in the night. This is also vanity. There is nothing better for man that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This I saw, that it was from the hand of God. Who can eat, or who else can hasten thereunto more than I? Hereunto, excuse me. Verse 26, for God giveth to a man that is good, and in his sight wisdom, and knowledge, and joy. But to the sinner he giveth travail, to gather and to heap up, that he may give him that is good before God. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit. So he's reading this, and he's like, look, I started off with pleasure. I started looking at pleasure, and I started looking at things as, hey, just laugh it up, find out what makes me funny, watch comedies, check out silly cat videos and people falling down and hurting themselves in crucial places, and all these different things going on. And he says, all this is vanity. He says, hey, you know what? I'm going to go and enjoy pleasures. It's vanity. I'm not going to worry about, I'm not going to worry about working hard. I'm not going to worry about saving up for a rainy day. I'm going to live my life to its fullest, be the light of the party, have a good time, and it's vanity. I said of laughter, it's mad. It's crazy, right? And of mirth, what doeth it? What good is mirth? What good is this of these pleasures that I have? What good is it? People spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on designer clothes. Why? At the end of the day, what's going to happen? I remember when we first got married, and we went to the shopping mall in St. Pete, Florida, and we were going around, and I got this brand new shirt. I was so pumped about this shirt. It was nice, name brand shirt, and I wore it, and I was coming out of her mom's house, and there's always this one stupid nail, and I always caught myself on that stupid nail, and sure enough, it ripped my shirt from here all the way in the back, like right in the middle of my spine. Just ripped it wide open. Couldn't sew it. Even if it did sew it, the shirt was ruined. What good does it profit having name brand clothes if they rip and tatter just like everything else? I'm not saying, hey, you shouldn't have I'm not saying you shouldn't get the best, or if you're going to, use them and have the best, getting a good pair of shoes. I'm saying, what does it profit having all the bling, having all the pizzazz, having all the fashion, having all the style? It lasts you nothing. It's vanity. It's absolute vanity. Then he says here in verse number 3, I set my heart to give myself into wine. You know what? I'm just going to eat and drink whatever I want. I'm just going to live it up. I'm going to be just having fun. I'm just going to let loose and live my life. Yet acquainting my heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was the good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life. I want to see what everyone else is doing. Now, I know that every time you read the Bible, when it says wine, it doesn't always necessarily mean alcohol. And I know that, okay? There's times you read it and it's talking about the fruit of the wine, or the fruit of the vine, it's talking about the wine, wine. It's not talking about always alcoholic beverages. Okay, we already know that, because the Bible says, look not upon wine when it is red. But then the Bible says that Jesus, when he took the wine. So Jesus didn't drink alcohol, but they say, oh, see, that is there. Anybody understands it. There's a reason why you won't find fruit juice, you won't find juice in the King James Bible. There's a reason for that, because it takes a little bit of understanding to know that wine could also mean juice, and that juice could also, it's just common sense, right? So it says here in verse number, by the way, just because it says wine doesn't mean it means juice. Like one of the things it talks about a pastor, right, not given to wine. Doesn't mean you're not supposed to drink juice. I mean, let's get back in the ballpark. Well, it says right there, pastors aren't supposed to drink juice. Really? Really? That's your deep study? That's where the Bible, that's the literal interpretation led you to realize, dumb. Anyways, fruit juice. Hey, the Bible tells us over in Timothy that Paul is telling Timothy, drink a little wine for thy stomach's sake. He's not saying go. The worst thing for you when your stomach's sick, when you got ulcers, is to take alcohol. Makes it worse. But you can take juice. What you can do? You can take some fruit, which you take some juice and help coat your stomach, help you take care of some things. There's a lot of different things towards that end. You give wine to them that are ready to perish. Okay, that's not talking about soda. Here, have Mountain Dew. You're ready to die. No. Common sense. Read the Bible in context. Not just literally, but in context, right? So he says here, I was giving myself to wine. I was going to live myself to pleasures. to useless vanity and pleasures. And he says there was vanity. It was useless. Doing absolutely nothing, having fun like everyone else, not disciplining myself, not focusing myself. It is not for kings or mule. It's not for princes to drink strong drink, or not to drink wine. It says it in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter verse 4, 31 verse 4. It is not for kings or mule. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink. So he's not saying, hey, drink up, drink wine, get drunk, and then I'm going to forget my discretion, my judgment. That's not what he was saying. So he's saying, look, I was trying to get myself to this leisure and everything kind of go. Don't worry about discerning things. And he says, I can't do that. He says that the first part was pleasure. I've tried into pleasure, and it was vanity. It was useless. I was no more satisfied pursuing pleasure than I was anything else. Then he says production. He's talking about production and labor. Look at all the things he said. I made me great works. I builded me houses. I planted me vineyards. I made me gardens and orchards. Look, these are the things that I did. I went and that was productive. I labored. There's things that I did. There's things that I worked. I planted trees in them of all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water to water there with the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidens, and I got me servants born in my house. I had great possessions of all the small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me. He says, all the things that I did, I worked hard. He talks later on about his labor. Because all this thing that I did, I worked hard my whole life. And all I have to show for it, I have possessions. It's not like he worked hard for his whole life and had nothing. He didn't have a busted down car that needed constant repair. He didn't have a PT Cruiser. He sat back and he was like, all these things that I have in my life, all these things, all this work that I did, he had money to show for it. He was of great riches, right? Solomon was rich. People brought him stuff all the time. He was rich. But he says, at the end of the day, it's all vanity. At the end of the day, it lasts me nothing. What good is it? Everything that I've accomplished, everything that I've gotten, everything that I've produced, everything that I've made, all the landscaping, all the gardening, all this house, this great house that I built, all these things that I have, I'm going to give it to somebody else. What has it profited me? I've just done it for somebody else. When I die, I don't take it with me. They're not going to have a U-Haul, bring it behind me to the grave. I have nothing. I remember we were in Florida. I kid you not. And this guy, I was in Florida. This guy was going to a funeral. He couldn't get a rental car. It was too expensive for a rental car. So he literally went and got a 1999 U-Haul truck. And he drove in the funeral in a U-Haul truck. And it was the funniest thing, because there goes the hearse. There goes the limo. There goes the preacher. There goes the lines. The funeral. And then here comes a U-Haul truck pulling up behind the grave. It was like, wow, you can take it with you when you go. It was the funniest, stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. But pleasure. What is it good if I have it and it's gone at the end of the day? If you're living your life for pleasure, if you're living your life to be the best video gamer. There's a kid I know. His goal in the same business I'm in is to literally sell enough to make a way to be the best video gamer, the best gamer in his state. He wants to be one of the best video gamers ever. That's his goal for being in this company. I'm like, and they're trying to pair people up to be accountable, accountability, and kind of hold them to their goals. And I'm like, please do not put me with him. Please don't. And they didn't. He's not even in the business anymore. He's gone. And I'm like, wow. Pleasure. Some people live for pleasure. And they do it. What does it profit if a man gain the whole world and lose his own soul? But what about production? Even the things that we have for work, the things that we work toward. What is it? Look, Lee Robertson was a great public speaker. He was a great pastor or a great preacher in an independent Baptist preacher. He pastored Highland Park Baptist Church in Tennessee, right? He started Tennessee Temple Bible Institute for pastors, for young men, for preachers, right? He had thousands of people in his church. He had thousands of people coming in and getting saved every year. He would preach Monday and Tuesdays all over the country, preaching everywhere. He lived until he was like 94, and up until he was 94, he still preached. He was out there preaching. He was the guy was just a gentle guy. I met the guy. He loved the Lord. He was right on salvation. Met the guy. It was actually kind of funny. One time he came to our church and he sat in my seat. I was up in the choir and I was coming down, and he was sitting in my seat. My Bible was sitting right there. He literally had to move my Bible all the way to get to my seat. And I came down and I was I was getting ready for the preaching, and I was like, "Excuse me, Brother Robertson, can I have my Bible?" He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, sir. You can have my seat in just a second." I know that's fine, that's fine. I'll sit back with my fiance. Can you please give me my Bible? He said, see me after church. See me after church. I'm so sorry. God bless you. God bless you. Super gentle guy, you know. And then after church, he comes up, we're talking. He's like, "I'm sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. I took your seat off. Please forgive me." But he's super gentle, kind of nice guy. Anyways, he had this great, big, huge church. One of the bulwarks. If you go look at independent Baptists, and you can look at a guy from the independent fundamental Baptists in the past 100 years, Lee Robertson was one of the most influential. But he died. And when he resigned his church, when he stepped down from his church, the church went to hell in a handbasket. It just fell apart. The church is like liberals coming in there, girls running around with, like just wicked stuff going on with guys and girls, so a lot of sex scandals going on within the church. It was just doctrinal heresies flipped out everywhere. They brought in other Bibles. And I was like, what did it profit? Having this great big church, what does it profit? You can go to like all over these big cities, and you go into these churches, and where they used to have 10, 5,000, 7,000 people in these churches, okay, even 100 people in churches. Now they have 15. They're not even meeting this in the auditorium anymore, in the church sanctuary. You know where they're meeting at? In the fellowship hall, in a Sunday school room, praying that God will give revival. What does it profit having all this and losing at everything? What does it profit? All these churches going up and down the road, and they're all shut down. They have this huge, beautiful facility, and they're having their church services on live stream. And I'm like, what does it profit? Everything you've got, what does it profit? You go to some guy down the road and you see these old people sitting out there spending the last bit of their life on their hands and knees trying to pull weeds out of their garden. Yes, my yard! The grass withereth, the flower fadeth. It's vanity, right? Even production, things that we study, the things that we hold to, nothing but vanity. Some people go to possessions. All that they have, money in the bank, clothes in their back, cars in the garage, bling on their ring, bling on the ring on their wrist, or on their rings on their wrist. Things that they have all around them, right? All these things that they have, all these fancied up things. What does it profit at the end of the day? You have nothing. Go to an estate sale sometime. Go to an estate sale where the person dies and they're trying to clean out the house, and just look at the 9 million knickknacks that they're trying to sell in a lot on an auction. All right, we got a beautiful pair of knickknacks here. Knickknacks will give you 3 cents a piece, and 3 cents a piece, and going once, going twice, and all right, we'll donate those to Goodwill. And then they sit at Goodwill forever. I remember there was a guy who he was a friend of mine in Maine. He worked for this guy who collected the bins from these drop boxes, and he takes his drop boxes and he brings them to the Goodwill or to the Salvation Army, to the thrift store. And he's got this. That's his job. It's pretty lucrative, actually. And he goes and he gets for how big the bin is full is how much it weighs is how much he gets. They said that they go in and they have these knickknacks and stuff. They know they won't sell, so they literally just break them and they throw them out because they'll never sell. And yet people collect knickknacks. They'll collect figurines. They'll collect shot glasses. They'll collect spoons. They'll collect stamps. They'll collect whatever. And it's like, at the end of the day, what did it benefit you? Another man's treasure is another man's junk. Now I know that one man's junk is another man's treasure, but one man's treasure is just another man's junk. The things you hold on to, the things that are so near to your house, to your heart, that you can't bear to get rid of, is junk. It's refuse. My wife and I were helping this one lady in New York, and she had this storage bin just full of junk. All of her storage bins were probably about the size of this room. She had 3 of them. And he went in there. Were you there when we did the... We went in there, it was literally just broken light bulbs, washing machines that didn't work, garbage, just boxes of garbage, stuff that was useless. Her apartment was no better. She literally had like 8 bags of cat litter, like shopping, like Walmart bags inside of kitchen bags that were inside of black bags that she couldn't hear down the stairs herself. So they literally sat in her apartment, stacked up, 7 or 8 garbage bags, like 30-gallon garbage bags full of just cat litter. And she couldn't throw it away, and she couldn't bring herself to let us throw it away for her. It was the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was ridiculous. All this possession, all the things that you hold on to as treasure, is just trash. And all the things that we hold to that says, hey, this is so important to me, wood, hay, and stubble. Hey, I used to be a Sunday school teacher, or hey, I used to sing in the choir, or hey, I used to go soul winning, or hey, I used to do this, or I used to do that. I used to. You've got a whole pile of wood, hay, and stubble because you stopped. All the things that you used to do for the Lord and you no longer do them, wood, hay, and stubble. Or you're still doing them, but we're doing it in the flesh. And not asking God to get the glory out of it, and yielding ourselves to the Holy Spirit. Preaching sermons, taking a stand on doctrine, taking a stand against the world. If I can speak with the tongue of angels, and I have all the understanding of all mysteries and all everything, 1 Corinthians 13, and if I can do all that, I can give my body to be burned. I can give my body to be murdered. But I have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. Possessions, the things that we have. What about this one? Prestige. All the things that you have. I'm not a foolish man. Really? But you die as a fool. How dies a rich man? How died Solomon? As a fool. How dies every man? As a fool. We think we're not going to die. We think we're not going to die. We think our life is going to last forever. We don't think that tomorrow our life is, hey, tomorrow I'm going to go down and build bigger barns and I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry. And Jesus said, hey, don't you know your soul is required of you this night? And yet all these things, we think we're somebody. We think we're doing right. We've arrived. Hey, we've got a prestige of things behind us. We've got a pedigree. We've got a prestige. Look at all that I have done in the past for the Lord. What are you doing now? Pastor McMurtry preached a sermon this past Sunday about men of God doing great exploits, and now they're silent. Well, what did you stop for? What are you doing now? Don't tell me what you used to do. What are you doing now? It was actually a pretty good sermon clip that I heard, but prestige. Hey, look at Solomon. Solomon is the wisest man. Sheba came to find out about his wisdom. Hey, Solomon, how did you die? As a fool. As a fool. I mean, this guy tried everything: pleasure, production, possession, prestige. And at the end of the days, how did you die? As a fool. I've sought myself to wisdom. Great. What is your wisdom going to do? What does your wisdom do when you die? Well, I've written books. I've made documentaries. I've made videos. I've taught millions of students. I've had, 3 followers on YouTube. I got all these people under my influence, but Tim Delello, 2 of those are me. So, I think one of them might be my wife. Or, no, I'm sorry, one of them's a troll. So I don't have any followers. Anyways, at the end of my day, what do I possibly have? What good is my ministry? If it's for people, if it's for production of people, it's vanity. If it's for pleasure, it's vanity. If it's for possessions, to say, look how many people I've got running on my... he's got more people running in this bathroom than you do in your church. Well, thank you for counting how many people go to the bathroom. I mean, seriously. But possessions, the things that we have. Hey, prestige. Well, if you can get this and your notoriety and you're known publicly, world renowned, and have your name in lights, what does it profit? If there's anything I learned about fellowshipping with any preachers of any denomination or any strand or any sect or any division or any camp. You know what I've learned? It's vanity. You may be the guy in the ticket today. You may be best friends with the guy today. Move out of state. I started a pastor's fellowship. These are my criteria. You have to be independent, fundamental, King James only, salvation by grace through faith. And any men who fit that criteria come in fellowship. That was it. That was my only criteria. Come in fellowship. Build it up. We had a good time. Man, we had some good fellowship times. Man, pastors were encouraged because I didn't come and say, how many are running? And how many souls have you saved? And how many people came to your church this past week? And how many scandals have you been free from? And it was just literally just pastors encouraging pastors, praying for one another, bearing the load for one another, and just caring for one another every other month on a Tuesday. That's it, every other month. Since I moved away, no one calls me. Brother Delello, man, Pastor Delello, man, thank you for so much for having this. Oh, you guys, this is such a great blessing. Thank you so much. If there's anything I can ever do for you, ever, please let me know. As soon as I resigned, I moved to Florida and stepped away because I just needed, the church wasn't going to grow, and the church needed to have an older pastor in there. And I was like, after all that took place, and I stepped aside and moved to Florida, just trying to figure out what's next. Nobody called me. Nobody emailed me. Nobody sought me out to see how I was doing. For that matter, here I am in this church that I sacrificed and I worked for 8.5 years. I'm not bitter. I'm just making a point. We worked in this church, my wife and I labored, sacrificed as a family. 8.5 years. Nobody calls us. Nobody says, hey, how you doing? Sorry, there's one lady, Donna. Nobody calls and says, hey, how are things going? Hey, how's the family? One person. Out of all the people that I've reached, out of all the people that I ministered to, all that. And I'm not saying poor petty me, I'm just saying at the end of the day, you can strive yourself for popularity, for prestige, for identification. Really? Where are you at when I'm down in Florida and I can't figure out which way was up and which way was down? I was so lost I couldn't see where I was at. I mean, I was in a bad place. Spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. I was in a mess. Nobody called. Nobody cared. And as you sit back and you're like, all these people that I've lived my life for, that I've given myself for, it's vanity. All these pastors and all these fellowships that you work so hard to jump through all their little hoops like a trained dog. And you even jump through a couple flaming hoops just to prove yourself loyal and to prove yourself true and to prove yourself you're somebody. And the first instance they disagree with something, they light you on fire publicly. Really? I don't think I want to be with that, number one. But number two, really? It's vanity. Because what you jump for, you try getting accepted today, you're a firefighter tomorrow. I guarantee you, all they're doing is sitting back, making a journal, recording what to rip you on next. So much for prestige. And Solomon's sitting back and saying, I'm Solomon. Look at all my wealth. Look at all my wisdom. Look at all my knowledge. Look at all my zeal. I've given myself to this. And at the end of the day, how did I die? As a fool. So if it's not in pleasure, it's not in production, it's not in possession, it's not in prestige, what is it for? What is it for? It's for the Lord. And we'll look at that as we get further on. But it's for the Lord. And it's not a bad thing that Solomon is going through these things in his chapters and bringing us along with him to show the reality and show him the truth of the secret of happiness, the secret of satisfaction, the secret of life, the purpose of why we do these things. It's not bad to read the Bible along through it and say, wow, my life ain't all that either. Solomon, I'm sitting right there in the dung heap with you, man. Give me a stick, I'll scrape some ashes on me. I'll pop some sores with you. Man, whoa. Could you imagine Job if Job had just had someone sitting down with him and realizing what he was going through and not trying to fix all his problems? Just to listen to Job. Look at the wisdom that poured out of Job as he sat there in the ashes while his friends were trying to find out where exactly was he wrong. You can have all the purpose and all the full head of steam. You can have all the knowledge in the world. You can have all the possession. You can have all the pleasure, all the purpose, all the kids, all the prestige. You can have everything. And you'll still die as a fool. You've got to find out what it is. You've got to find out the secret of life. And Solomon's taking us on that journey. Anyways, we'll get into chapter 3 next week. That's all I have for tonight. I hope it's encouraging to realize, hey, maybe you're sitting there too and saying, hey, there's things in my life, I'm just trying to figure it out. Like, man, I'm going to pick on Mateo for a second. Man, I just graduated college. I spent 4 years learning mechanical engineer. And everybody wants experience and education. It's vanity. It's altogether vanity. What was the purpose of spending $3 million to go to college? If I have no job as soon as I step out of college, what in the world? And I'm being playful and facetious there, but there's things that we look at and say, what was the purpose? What was the purpose of that? What a waste. What a waste. But learn the lessons from it. Learn what Solomon figured out in his life and apply it to ours. All right, let's go ahead and pray. We'll